Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, one of Uncle Sam's wayward sons. I intend to talk about important topics every week in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. Please like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow the channel and we try to defend and protect America's middle class. So with all that said, let's get started. Our guest for this week is Mr. Mike Scott. He is the Libertarian candidate for Senate in the state of Maryland. Mike Scott was born in Chicago, Illinois. He served in the United States Air Force from 1990 to 2012. He earned a bachelor's degree from the University of Nebraska in Omaha in 1997, and also a graduate degree from Central Michigan University in 2004. His career experience includes being self-employed. He also served at the Pentagon twice. Mr. Scott's also been affiliated with the VFW, that is the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the Disabled American Veterans, the American Legion, his church, and also Americans for Safe Access, and also World Combat Academy. With all that said, Mike, you're a very busy guy. How are you doing today?
Blessed and highly favored. How you doing, Bernie?
Amen. I'm doing great, brother. Thank you for joining us, and I thank you for coming on the program. And I want to hear you talk a little bit about yourself. Tell us about yourself and who you really are. I know you, but the audience really doesn't. So talk to them. Tell them who you are.
I'm glad. First, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it because the hardest part about being a Libertarian nominee is getting out to the people. We can't spend $20 million on advertising and selling ourselves. So interviews like these are invaluable to us going forward. So, man, I appreciate you. Thank you. What do you want to know? You want to know titles? Retired major,
there you go.
dad, Christian, martial artist, strategic planner, ops researcher. I even have a better than average claim at rocket scientist. Oh, yeah.
Anything you want to say is what we want to know. I mean, like I said, you and I met on the campaign trail when I was running for Congress, and we just kind of hit it off and, found out that, we got a common background in the United States Air Force. We got a common background as political candidates, and we just liked each other. So we kept up with each other, and I just want you to just say whatever's on your mind at this point, and then I'll have a few questions for you.
Like you said, born and raised in Chicago. I've lived in 3 countries and either 9 or 11 states, and I've traveled around studying a little bit of everything. I enlisted in 1990, so I started off enlisted, and I was a computer programmer. You were a comms officer. I was a 3COX2, 491X2 back in the day.
Another thing we have in common.
So you remember that? And then I got my degree in mathematics from Nebraska, Omaha, and I became a data scientist, a ops researcher, as they call it. And what we did was strategic planning. And I've done training. I've taught people everything from martial arts. I've run teams. I've done reports on stability and security in Iraq for Congress. I have been all over the world about 7 times. And I just want to save the union. That's really why I decided to run, was because my children deserve to inherit a world that they can live and thrive in. And the America that we're building is failing them left and right in a multitude of ways. So I decided to step up and run. And I don't know if you saw it, but I always said Ephesians 6:12 is why I decided to run. That's for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, and the spirit of darkness of this world, which sounds like DC. And Ecclesiastes 9, verse 10, the race goes not to the swift necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yes,
the battle to the strong. So I got on the ballot, and I'm offering a real choice to Marylanders. If you really don't want to vote for the Democratic incumbent the Democrat or the Republican who's running, because both of them are seriously flawed candidates, you have another viable option. And I may be crazy, but I'm not dumb.
Well, we both have that in common again. I'm a little crazy, but I'm not dumb either.
Not dumb. Well, they say it's crazy, but I think it's paying attention. We're paying attention. The one thing the military does for you is it gives you a rubric through which you can make your decisions. The Air Force version was the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act.
Right.
And what I've observed, and you observe it without ego and what you want. You don't dream about what you want. You don't fear what's out there. You look at what is. And the nature of what is kind of horrifying. People do not realize we spend between $80,000 and $100,000 per second, every second of every day. And they don't realize that 3/4 of the budget is mandatory spending. We don't even get to vote on that. And the quarter that we'll get to vote on is all borrowed money, all of it.
Yeah.
If they actually understood how badly our elected officials, I can't say badly, how immorally, they are hurting our children, they're hurting our seniors, they're hurting the sick. If people really realized how bad they were doing, they wouldn't keep voting them in, but they have us living in survival. They said a long time ago, the way to motivate a man is fear, hunger, or money. So that kind of explains a lot of what the government's doing to us right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've done some thinking here. Wow.
So I go left real quick.
There you go.
But it's not a matter of changing your politics. I don't want anybody to change their politics. I don't want anyone to change their mind. In fact, most of the platform for libertarians is liberty. It's shrinking government because the individual is the ultimate minority. And where's that quote by Kant? Protecting rationality and conscious choice must be the basis for all moral reasoning. And that, to me, it reminds me of Amendment 10 in the Constitution. Everything not given to the federal government is relegated to the states or left to the people. And we have given up all of our power to Big Daddy government, and Big Daddy keeps spanking us, and we don't get anything for it.
Reach. Look, I better get on with this interview. I got some questions for you. And
Yes,
if I keep messing around here, we won't get anything done.
Yeah, I told you I could talk all day.
Well, so can I. You know me.
Yes, sir.
But here we go. You ready?
Yes, sir.
What is a libertarian?
Okay, so that's a rough question to ask because there's no such thing as a libertarian. Libertarians are all individualists. We have failed Republicans and failed Democrats, and we have solid, hardcore, classically liberals, and we got Mises Caucus liberals, and we got crazy people. We accept everybody because, again, we believe that the individual is it. And we don't care if you change your politics. You know how when people move from Cali to Nevada and Texas, they kept saying, you can come here, but understand why you came here and don't change your politics. We don't mind if you don't change your politics as long as you follow our one basic rule. That's the non-aggression principle, non-aggression pact. You can't interfere with somebody else's liberty and their desires to live their life how they want, and they can't mess with yours. And that's what we believe the only thing government should do. Governments give themselves all kinds of powers, and we hate that because, it's always a slippery slope. They started with Social Security, and it was never supposed to be taxed. But look at it. It's taxed. It wasn't supposed to be mandatory.
You're right.
I volunteered for Social Security when I was born. I got a card. My kids did too. That's not voluntary. It was never supposed to be taxed. It's taxed. And I found out another hilarious thing: paying into the system is no guarantee that you'll get money back. These people can do whatever they want. And all libertarians say is protect the individual, protect freedom, protect liberty, do no harm, take no rubbish. That's our job. So that's it in a nutshell. But we have MAGAtarians and we got Green New Dealitarians. We got folks that are hardcore Trump supporters. We got folks that stand up and want to vote Harris. And I'm just sitting around like, hey, Chase Oliver's our libertarian nominee. We had an entire convention for that. What are you guys doing with, the major party candidates? But again, we don't mind because everybody's free to do what they want and express themselves how they want.
There you go. I like that answer. I got another question for you. You ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Tell me what qualifies you for office.
Oh my God, I'm not sure anybody's qualified for that office. That is a rough job. I understand the nature of the job, but you remember that old scene from Pulp Fiction where Jules was talking to Vincent and we're talking to Ringo and he said, you're the weak and I'm the tyranny of evil men.
Yes.
But I'm trying real hard. I'm trying to be real hard to be the shepherd, Ringo.
One of my favorite movies.
26 years total federal service between the NSA, the Pentagon, and again, ops researcher, strategic planner, but none of that mattered as much as building the president's budget. I helped build the NDAA for the president. So I understand billion-dollar budgets and I'm not impressed by the numbers. I've also had a top secret clearance since 1994. I actually worked with a lot of the programs that my opponents are going to have to learn and figure out. I know the ins and outs of government service. When I wanted to understand why the heck post offices cost so much, a friend of mine was a postmaster in some rural area in Kentucky. I called her up. She had 3 post offices under her. And I'm like, what exactly do you guys need? What are you doing? When I wanted to know about the acquisitions reforms the Air Force was pushing, I was stationed with a young lady in Los Angeles about 100 years ago. I called her up and said, yo, she's an SES now. She's a SES now, started off as like a 9. But I called her up and said, yo, what's going on? What are the ins and outs? And what does this mean? I've got connections they're going to have to make, and have no doubt they are much better politicians than I will ever be, because I'm not a politician. I'm a mathematician. And I understand the math and I understand the budget and I understand that I'm not going to go up there to make deals and further the rot that is corrupting our union. I am going to go there and clean it out because I don't really want to go up there and deal with those people. I'm doing it because I can and because if I don't try to do something, it's immoral. So I have the will to do the job. I have the experience to do the job. And quite frankly, I'm smarter than they are and have no doubt I'm prettier.
All right. I don't know about all that, but I'll have to leave that to your wife.
I'm not prettier than Lockdown Larry Hogan? Come on.
Well, I got to give you that one.
Man, Uncle Fester can't do nothing to me.
Man,
sorry, I apologize for that. The reason I say inflammatory things is because, again, I have to put my word out there, and I'm taking cues from former President Trump. When you go out there and you get on TV, that's the important thing. And I used to call Angela also Brooks, also ran, because I didn't think she was going to take Trone. And one of her constituents, somebody in PG, because I live in PG, he called her Angela also bought. So that's her new name to me. Oh, I know. It's brutal out there, dude. These folks aren't pulling any punches.
Also bought and Uncle Fester.
Lockdown Larry. When he had power. When he had power, he shut the state and mandated the jab for state employees.
Well,
I voted for the man. And I thought he was doing a good job right until he said, we're shutting the nation. We're making you close your jobs. We're not letting you go out in public. And everything they did was wrong. Everything they did was wrong.
Well, a lot of people hold him responsible for a lot of things having to do with COVID, but I'm just going to say that I'm going to remember those nicknames you gave these two. That's pretty good.
Tell others, because I need people to hear the name Mike Scott. God, it's really hard to get your name out there. I'm kind of on a principled stance of not raising money. Everybody tells me I'm crazy, but libertarians, again, strategic planner, ops researcher. When the people come to me and they offer me money, I say, listen, if I thought that would help me get into office, I would take every dollar you had and pimp you out to go get me more. If I thought it would help me. But irrespective of how much money libertarians spend, I think we had Ron Paul was our 12%, 13% high water mark. And the average is 3 to 5, 3 to 7% is what we pull. And it goes all the way down to 1.5% in some areas. I understand that money, to me, is pushing a wet noodle. I cannot raise enough. I can't put up enough signs to fight vote blue no matter who with, and Beyonce singing freedom at the DNC and Hulk Hogan at the Republican convention ripping off his shirt. I cannot I cannot compete with that. What people have to do is get irritated enough with business as usual in government to look for other options, investigate them, and then exercise them.
Wow. Well, I'm impressed already, but I was impressed with you before. And even though we are from two different parties, I think our philosophy is the same.
Well, I love I love the Republicans' party philosophy. Like I said, you can't be 18 in America and not be a Democrat as a black man. So I started off a Democrat, and I was, and then when I started looking around, because again, OODA loop, observe, they didn't have my best interest at heart, and I saw it. And I looked at the Republican platform, and I said, man, that's a good platform. Small government, let's see what they do. Right. And I looked around, and I realized that they didn't necessarily walk how they talk. They didn't necessarily follow through with policies that they espoused. So I looked at it, and I realized that I don't care who you are or what you do. I don't care if you're LGBTQ, that's LGBTQ+. I could care less.
Another one I hadn't heard before, LGBTQ. Okay.
Well, I made that one up.
Oh my God.
I don't care if you're LGBTQ, it's got nothing to do with me. I don't care what you do as long as you're not harming others. I care that they're taking money out of my wallet left and right, and I have no say in how it's spent. I mean, you might be old enough to remember, well, you probably were born around then, but they used to be able to opt out of certain parts of the taxes because you were conscientious objector, and none of what you said could go to war. They canceled that.
I've heard about that. I didn't get to experience it though.
Yeah, I mean, you're not much old, but they also used to go to the clinic or go to the doctor, and it was like a visit to the corner store, or the doctor would come out to your house. The reason why healthcare and education and everything is so expensive is because government interferes. Government backing student loans is why education costs work so high. Yeah. And when people hear me say I want to eliminate the Department of Education, they go, oh my God, you don't want to educate the children. And I look at them and say, we're not educating the children anyway. In our best counties in Maryland, Montgomery County, Howard County, they're reading at like 65% of the kids are reading on grade level, and about half of them are doing math on grade level. And if you look at Baltimore and PG, I mean, PG County is like 17% math equivalency in high school, and Baltimore's closer to 13. And their answer seems to be throw more money at the problem. Well, when I was young, they threw $3,000 a month at Johnny, and he couldn't read. Now they're throwing $19,000 a year at Johnny per pupil, and Johnny can't read. $19,000 per year.
23 in Baltimore.
Yeah,
it's $23K.
23.
Insane.
And we're getting worse outcomes, and it's getting more expensive. Ditto healthcare. Ditto all of it. Yeah. Their answer is more the same, and my answer is shrink government. That's my only answer. That's it. Everybody goes, why should I vote for you? I have things I would like to do, but the only thing I can do initially is to try and control the rot. And we actually have 7 libertarians on the ticket for Senate, running for Senate across the nation.
Really?
I could do some damage by myself because a senator is a powerful position, but 7 of us could save the union.
Okay. All right. Well, I like the way you talk. You know that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I got another question for you. You ready to go?
Shoot.
Tell me about some bills that you plan on supporting if you're elected.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is vote myself out of a job because term limits and campaign finance reform. As I said, granting power through money-powered popularity contests is short-sighted at best, and at worst, it attracts the pathological and leads us to where we are today. So term limits and campaign finance reform have to happen. And a lot of folks aren't going to like this, but we need a new round of BRAC, base realignment and closure. And people don't realize why BRAC is so radioactive. And it's so radioactive because a military base isn't just force projection. A military base is jobs and billions to the local community and to the constituents.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't close those. So we'll leave stateside BRAC alone for a little while. We can close some of those 750 bases we have in foreign countries.
Absolutely.
And pull back some of those thousands we have deployed to about 80 more.
No wonder we're at war all the time.
Well, I mean, that's how we operate. That's how our economy thrives, is we're arms dealers.
Yeah.
And that's what we are. And that explains our foreign policy. And that explains why we seem kind of schizophrenic, because we support whoever's going to cause the most ruckus, it appears.
It's a shame.
That, and they bribe the hell out of Congress because Congress is for sale. So,
you know what? You're a libertarian and I'm a Republican, but we agree on all these things. Amazing.
I was talking to Claudia Dela Cruz. I saw the Free and Equal debates where we had a crazy socialist, a libertarian. It's all the also-rans who nobody pays attention to. You know, I think Jill Stein was there. Cornel West wasn't there, but somebody from a Constitution Party was. Everybody understands the problem. Everybody frames it perfectly. Overreach, overspending, overtaxation. We all have a good handle on the issues, but our answers are the same. You know, the socialist answer is to give the government more power to take care of things. And I'm like, if the government is corrupt and out of control, I'm not sure more power is a good thing for them, you know?
I would agree.
Yeah, all of us understand the problems, but we're not, you know, the whole bell curve thing.
Yeah.
The parties have to cater to their hardest far right and hardest far left, and they have to cater to them because those are the ones most likely to vote in the primaries. Right. You know, so you have to get them on board or else you get no traction. And it kind of explains what they say, and I don't know. But after BRAC, I mean, I would really go through and do a SCOTUS, Supreme Court. I would go through and do a nice ethics probe, and all of them who voted on Citizens United and then ends up it was taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from billionaires. I kind of impeach the hell out of them too, because I'm just irritated at the entire thing. I found out SCOTUS has no ethics rules, or had none, until they got caught borrowing money from billionaires.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really daunting how much you have to go, but those are probably the top 3 or 4.
We live in wild times.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I got another question for you. Now, this is going to be a little tough. What is your stance on President Trump versus Vice President Harris?
Now, this is an unfair characterization. And again, I tell you, I say things inflammatory, but I call Harris Trump and brown, and I call Don Harris and orange. Ooh. And again, that's to get traction. And it's not all the way fair, but when you look at it, you know, Barack Obama increased the debt trillions, Biden increased the debt trillions, Trump increased the debt like 6.6 trillion. And he shut the nation, and he fast-tracked the jab, and he didn't fix Social Security, and he didn't fix immigration. And there's a lot of infighting that says, oh, but they did this or they did that. If you look at what VP Harris is doing right now, which, by the way, is nothing but campaigning, and her and President Biden supposedly, I call her Kamala Chameleon, by the way, Kamala Chameleon. If Holocaust Joe and Kamala Chameleon agree on everything, why aren't they fixing things now? Well, and sooner or later, OODA loop, people have to understand that they're pimps, and it's the oldest game in the world. It's divide and conquer. It is nothing can get done. We're having the same arguments: education, healthcare, economy, environment, equity, all the same conversations, all the same fights. Both sides have had a majority. Neither side's fixed anything. When Trump had a majority, he didn't push through nationwide concealed carry. He got a little bit of border wall done, but half of that was probably just inciting his base. I'm not sure how much he actually cared about it. I really can't trust any words coming out of either of their mouths, because when he had the job, he messed up. She's almost got the job now because Holocaust Joe can't be running anything.
Holocaust Joe.
Holocaust Joe.
Oh my goodness.
They both, I wrote a poem. I write poems all the time because I'm slightly crazy. And the one thing I wrote, and this was bothering me, was they were both for locking up protesters who were, you know, protesting Israel. Both of them has said, and Trump didn't say Australia-style gun grabs. He said grab the guns and give due process later. And yes, he said that about people who were dangerous, but how much has government overstepped its bounds? When you give them a little entrance, they take more and more. Giving government power is a slippery slope. And both of them increased government. Hell, the Don increased, he gave us another military branch. We got a Space Force now.
That is true.
I mean, and I'm not trying. I mean, yes, they have differences. Yes, they have a lot of differences. But the things that I care about, the things that are big ticket items that they should fix, the things that they campaign on and fight on, they seem to have kind of the same. I mean, grab guns, take taxes, support the drug war, support Ukraine, support Israel, keep fighting in, I forget if it's Sudan or Congo or both. I'm trying to figure out how to shrink government, and they are making sure America stays an empire. I don't want to be an empire. I want to destroy the empire and save the union.
Okay. Well, as a journalist in this particular incident, I'm not going to argue with you. You know, I have a bias towards Mr. Trump, and I'll leave it like that.
And that's the best thing about libertarians is I'm not trying to get you to change your mind. You know who the Gottmans are, Dr. John and Judy Gottman.
I've heard those names.
Relationship counselors, they can look at you and your wife arguing and give you guys a couple of lessons, and with a 90% accuracy rate, they can tell whether or not you'll stay together. They said 69% of the times in the course of a marriage, 10-year, 20-year marriage, whatever, folks don't change their mind and folks don't change the things they argue about. What they do is they change how they argue. I have no contempt for you or your position. If you want to vote Trump all day. But where you can, vote Libertarian, because we're the only ones talking about shrinking things.
Okay.
And that's all I want. I could care less who's in office. I want the office so impotent, so not powerful that it doesn't matter who's there. That's kind of my goal.
Well, that's where we agree. The government is way too big. We both spent a significant time, decades in the United States government, and we are all over the world, as you mentioned, 700 military bases doing things that most people will have no clue of. And that's how we keep getting into trouble, getting into other people's business. But this interview is not about me. It's about you.
Okay.
I want you to talk to the people and say whatever is on your mind. This is your time. Go get them, Mike.
I think I said it before, but my name is Mike Scott. I'm the Libertarian Party Senate nominee for the People's Republic of Maryland. Vote Libertarian, y'all. I'm not trying to change your minds. I'm not trying to get you to change your politics. If you truly love your nominee, and let's face it, nobody loves their nominee because, you know, Patriot Act, FISA 702, poverty, education, nobody loves their nominee. All I want you to do is shrink government because, all BS aside, we can't afford it. Again, right now we're 35 trillion in debt. Both sides have agreed that it's going to double in about 9-10 years. Both sides. Debt, interest on the debt is our number 2 bill behind Social Security, which, by the way, neither side fixed. And then we got Social Security, interest on the debt, Medicare, and DOD. And DOD is over $800 billion a year, not counting the billions we send left and right. We send left and right to, I should have put that on Do Not Disturb, to other countries. We can't afford the things we're doing. And if we go my way, a decade or so of austerity will happen and people have to shrink government and they'll have to tighten their belts. And people will talk about me like a dog because my way is going to be hard. I'm that dad at the store that goes, you don't want it, don't ask for it, you ain't getting it, leave me alone about it. Because we can't afford the things we're doing. That's that's my entire thing. If you want to shrink government and put power back in the hands of we the people, you vote Libertarian, because the line isn't left or right. The line is individual autonomy or government oppression. And man, I'm feeling squashed.
I do understand. How can people reach you if they need to?
Oh, I'm easy to reach. MikeScott2024.com. And I've been told that I have an anemic, my website is kind of terrible because I built it and paid for it myself. So I mean, I don't have $20 million to campaign. MikeScott2024.com, at Mike Scott, one word, on Twitter and YouTube. And that's at Mike Scott, the number one word. And that word, by the way, is freedom. So Mike Scott, one word on those. And I believe on Instagram and Facebook, I'm Mike Scott, all caps. I'm easy to reach. Heck, Mike Scott, one word, all caps, at gmail.com will get you directly to my inbox. But that one is spelled out ONE. And that's how to get me.
Amen. Well, Mike, let me tell you something. You know, I enjoy your company.
Yes, sir.
My intention of having you on this podcast is so many people can get to know the wonder that is you.
Thank you. I just want people to understand they have a viable alternative. And like I said, I'm not trying to change minds. If you are down with Angela Olsobot, I probably can't change your mind. If you are down with Lockdown Larry Hogan, exercise that. But understand that this is a false duopoly. I'm a libertarian. That's the third largest political party in the United States, and they're not even giving our candidate Secret Service protection. I think they offered Bobby Kennedy Secret Service. Wow. We are not taken seriously, and I think they do it on purpose. And I get it. We had the Vermin Supremes out there, but we've also had the Gary Johnsons and the Spike Cohens. Your mileage may vary when it comes to libertarians. I firmly wish that we could eliminate all political parties, and then people would have to run on issues and their character would be on display instead of hearing vote blue no matter who or vote red till you're dead. I really wish, like Martin Luther King said, we would be judged on the content of our character, not by the letter on our name.
Mike, we got a whole lot in common.
Man, I'm telling you, you're libertarian. I'm gonna radicalize you, man. We're gonna come over. You're gonna join the dark side.
You make a hell of a Republican.
My aunt just said the same thing about being a Democrat. Oh my God, you would be a great Democrat. I plan on being I'm trying my best to be a good man. And that's what we need in office. We don't need more politicians. We need mathematicians.
Well, I can verify that you've achieved the good man status.
I mean, that's a daily struggle, though, but thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, look, you take care of yourself. I thank you for coming on the Loyal Opposition podcast. Keep doing what you're doing. You take care now.
Thank you.
Well, that's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition podcast, produced in association with Fallback Productions and Veterans for America First. Please like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow the channel and protect America's middle class. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available as an ebook on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. And also, remember, it's okay to disagree. But if we want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility for ourselves and for our fellow citizens. Thanks for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. We'll see you next week.